Daniel Jones signs with the Indianapolis Colts for a 1-year, $14 million deal. The intent is to provide competition for Anthony Richardson. So the intent of this move is not to replace Anthony Richardson right away necessarily out of the gate, but it's to provide competition. So in training camp, throughout the offseason, and even potentially throughout the game season, we're going to see competition between Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson. Now, this is a big move. It's not as flashy if you're a national, fan of the NFL, and if the Colts are just another random team in the AFC South, you may not care all that much about this move. But it's a big deal to us as Colts fans because to me it signifies that the Colts don't really have a QB1 at all. Because if we're considering Daniel Jones to theoretically be at an equal playing field with Anthony Richardson, that implies that Anthony Richardson is not quite a starting level quarterback right now in this moment because Daniel Jones isn't a starting level quarterback. Remember, Daniel Jones, he was benched. He was released by the Giants. He ended up on the Vikings and now is on the Indianapolis Colts. Anthony Richardson was also benched, and yes, he came back in and he's had injury issues and he's younger and there's a whole, it's totally different situations. But Anthony Richardson now being in competition with Daniel Jones implies to me that at this moment, neither one of these quarterbacks are capable or perhaps deserving of being the starting quarterback in Indianapolis, and they're using training camp in the beginning of the season to prove that one of them does fill that role. And if neither one of them fills that role by the end of the season, Daniel Jones is on a 1-year deal. Anthony Richardson is, of course, young and currently not costing as much as maybe he will in the future. It's very easy for Indianapolis to then say, okay, we're moving on from both of you. Daniel Jones, 1-year deal. We're not going to renew it. Anthony Richardson, we're moving on. We're drafting a quarterback. Maybe we're bringing somebody else in of a bit more of a higher pedigree than Daniel Jones, perhaps. That's the conversation that we'll be having after the end of this year. If neither one of these players fulfill the prophecy or fulfill the hope that they're going to be the starting quarterback in the Indianapolis Colts. So again, I don't think right now on this day in March of 2025, we have a QB1 in Indianapolis. I think that Anthony Richardson is a step behind that. Daniel Jones a step behind that. They're both looking to make that step forward, and if neither of them do it, it's a complete hard reset of the quarterback position after this season in Indianapolis. And if one of them does, and they're awesome, and we go to the playoffs and win a Super Bowl, that's exactly what the best case scenario is and what the hope would be. My concern is that splitting reps between these two in training camp and splitting reps between these two during the season is going to perhaps lower both of their ceilings, right? Because at the end of the day, what's the best case scenario? Well, the best case scenario is one of the two situations where either Anthony Richardson wins this quarterback competition, he plays well, he's young, he's incredible, he becomes our franchise quarterback, we go to the playoffs and we improve from there until we win a Super Bowl with him. Or Daniel Jones comes in and kind of has a Sam Darnold type of storyline where he ends up being fantastic, playing well, kicking out Richardson. We extend Daniel Jones. Both of these situations are less likely if we split their reps in half, right? Anthony Richardson, what's his biggest problem? There's a lot, but one of them is, of course, experience. One of the issues that, at least at a glance, you look at with Anthony Richardson is, well, he didn't play that much in college, especially compared to guys like Jaden Daniels or Bo Nix, right? The guys that played a lot in college have a lot of games. It doesn't even have to be big games, but that, of course, helps too. Those who played a lot and those who have a lot of reps under their belt, a lot of close game situations under their belt, they're the ones that are shining in the NFL. Anthony Richardson is an example of someone that doesn't have that. He doesn't have very many games underneath his belt from his college career, and that's going to sort of postpone his success in the NFL. So if we take away more practice reps and maybe take away even more game reps, that to me is going to limit the ceiling that Anthony Richardson has to potentially have success moving forward. And similarly, Daniel Jones is going to have less of an ability to maximize his acclimation to the system, right? Daniel Jones, new team, new players, new offense coordinator, new head coach, everything like that. Daniel Jones it's going to take him a little bit more time to sort of get acclimated to all of that. The loser of this quarterback battle, to me, loses their place in the league, at least as a starter. Daniel Jones, this is his last chance, right? This is his last chance to have any hope of being a starter in this league. I think it is for Anthony Richardson, too, because I just think that the consistency of the failure in Indianapolis and the nature of the failures in Indianapolis, if they were to continue, would indicate that he's not ready to be a starting quarterback. He could be a great Malik Willis, but I don't think he could be a Lamar Jackson if this season goes poorly for Anthony Richardson once again. Now, I don't think that this move of grabbing Daniel Jones is going to end up being the right move for Indianapolis. In my opinion, we should be going in on all in on Anthony Richardson this season. And this deal is evidence of why it certainly supports that idea. because Daniel Jones is here for 1 year, right? So if this Daniel Jones move doesn't work out, we could consider this a lost year and just move on. But that's the timeline we would have with Anthony Richardson anyway, right? Because at the end of the day, a lot of Colts fans thought that this offseason should be the offseason that we hard reset, fire the coach, move on from the quarterback, fire the GM. We didn't do any of those things. So to me, I'm thinking, okay, Anthony Richardson, theoretically fully healthy, theoretically ready to go for this upcoming season, where he understands that it's kind of his last year to really prove the fact that he deserves to be in the NFL still. Same situation for Shane Steichen. At this point, surely the same situation for Chris Ballard. These three guys, we reload, release it, we reset. We have 1 more year. We give Anthony Richardson everything we can give him to provide him with the ability to succeed, and then we see if he succeeds. And if he doesn't, then we're moving on. After the season, we're moving on. And there's a lot of factors that go into why that would be the idea. Number one, Anthony Richardson probably does deserve 1 more season at least. The quarterback draft class is not very deep this year. It potentially could be better the next season. So Anthony Richardson is a guy that we're basically saying, you deserve 1 more shot. We're not moving on from you just yet, but we're going to bring in competition. And the worst case scenario is the same, regardless of whether or not Daniel Jones is here or not. If Daniel Jones comes in, right, and neither him or Anthony Richardson pan out and end up being franchise quarterback caliber players, then we move on from both of them because Daniel Jones is on a one year deal, and then we completely reset and find a new quarterback, whether it's through free agency next season or whether it's through the draft, and we move forward from there with a new quarterback, a new vision, and a new plan for success. The only losses of potentially bringing in Daniel Jones and not going all in on Anthony Richardson for this season is, first of all, the cap space, which to me isn't a huge deal because it's just a 1 year, $14 million deal. I'm not overly concerned about that. But also, it's the opportunity for Anthony Richardson to succeed. And that second point might be why we're setting ourselves up for failure with this move. Because again, what's the worst case scenario if we don't bring in Daniel Jones? If we go all in on Anthony Richardson and we say, okay, Anthony Richardson, you have the reins. You're the starting quarterback. We're going to do everything we can to support you. We're going to put the wind at your back. We're going to do everything we possibly can to put you in position to succeed. Here you are, Anthony Richardson. Here's all the resources we have for you. If he doesn't succeed, if his completion percentage is under 50% again, if he gets injured again, if the effort issues are there, if the field vision, all of the issues that we've seen with Anthony Richardson, if they repeat again this season, now you know absolutely for sure, with no caveats and with nothing else in the back of your mind, you know that Anthony Richardson is not the franchise quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts, and you know that we need to go into a different direction. So by going all in on Anthony Richardson, that's what we do. Either A, he succeeds, and we say, okay, we were good. We were right to give him another year. He is our franchise quarterback. We can win a Super Bowl one day with him. We're going to move forward with him as our starting quarterback. Or he's bad, and then you look around and say, okay, now we understand. We move on from Anthony Richardson. We draft another quarterback or grab one from free agency, whatever the move. That's a conversation for another time. At least now we've given Anthony Richardson truly every opportunity we possibly could have given him before being able to fairly move on. And by bringing in Daniel Jones, the same worst-case scenario was true, right? The worst-case scenario is that both of them are bad, and we have to move on from both of them. But the issue is, I think in the back of our mind at the end of the season, we would say, well, what if Anthony Richardson had all the reps as starting quarterback in the preseason? What if Anthony Richardson started every single game? If Daniel Jones ends up starting week 1 and the season goes by the wayside, Anthony Richardson comes in, doesn't play very well, we might wonder what would have happened if we put all of our faith in Anthony Richardson and gave him the starting job from week 1. What would have happened? Then maybe next offseason, if the Daniel Jones experiment doesn't work out, maybe we sit around and we say, well, maybe Anthony Richardson deserves another chance where we go fully all in on him, and then we've wasted this season and potentially are wasting a second. I think that what Indianapolis needs to do and what Indianapolis is doing is accepting the fact that the worst-case scenario is that this season is a complete waste. That could happen if we go all in on Anthony Richardson and he fails. But that's okay in my opinion. It's worth the risk because if he succeeds, we know he's good. We know he's the guy. And if he fails, then we can fully understand and know that we're making the right decision by moving on from him, and fully understand and know that finding a new quarterback, finding a new vision for the future is the best decision for Indianapolis. I worry that splitting the reps in the preseason and splitting the reps throughout the season between these two quarterbacks is going to limit the ceiling of both of them and potentially minimize the opportunity for success for both of them, only increasing the likelihood that we're going to move on from both of them at the end of this season, and then we're back where we started, and in the back of our minds, we might wonder, What would have happened if we went all in on Anthony Richardson? Would he have succeeded, and would we have our franchise quarterback? Maybe he's capable of something that we're not aware of, and we need this one last season to give him the opportunity to prove it. I don't know if we'll fully be able to maximize that opportunity by bringing in Daniel Jones and splitting reps. Now, I don't love it, right? For all those reasons that I just outlined, I don't love this move, but I am willing to be proven wrong. Sam Darnold, great example of a guy that absolutely proved everybody wrong, led the Vikings to a 14-3 season. Yeah, that completely fell apart at the end, but now he's in Seattle, and he's kind of proven that he's able to be a starting quarterback in the NFL in 2025. Maybe Daniel Jones turns into the next Sam Darnold. Maybe Indianapolis is the spot for him, right? Maybe this does light a fire under Anthony Richardson. Maybe the people smarter than me in the Colts front office see something that I don't. I'm willing to watch it all play out, but I'm not confident that this is the best approach for the reasons that I outlined before. Again, my preference is that we go all in on Anthony Richardson for this season. We don't have to extend him. We don't have to guarantee him a future with Indianapolis. I think this season, the best decision is to give Anthony Richardson everything we can possibly give him. And if we go 8-9 again, then we know that's our ceiling with Anthony Richardson, unless something external out of our control occurs, like some complete injury purge or something like that. If we give Anthony Richardson a team around him that I would describe to be a playoff caliber team and we'll talk about these moves in the secondary in a little bit, but after we've retooled the secondary, right after the draft, I think we'll have a playoff caliber roster if you take away the quarterbacks from every single team. Then we just have to find out if Anthony Richardson is a quarterback or a playoff caliber quarterback, And that's going to be the question that we would answer this season by going all in on him. And if it doesn't work out, we know that our chapter with Anthony Richardson is over, and it's time to take this playoff caliber roster and reset with the rookie quarterback or reset with a veteran quarterback through free agency. That's my preference, right? I want to give our young first-round pick at least one more year, giving him the absolute best chance to succeed and not having any other distractions. I understand the fact that you want to provide him with competition. You want to kind of force him to outcompete somebody else in the locker room. That's all true, but in my opinion, if Anthony Richardson is the guy, if he is the franchise quarterback in Indianapolis, he already has to be motivated because he got benched last season as the starter, right? He's struggled. He's had a bad year. He understands the fact, whether he listens to the media or not, he understands the fact that this is his last shot to prove that he deserves a place in the NFL and he deserves a place as the starting quarterback in Indianapolis. This is his one last year to prove that that's true. Maybe bringing in Daniel Jones and providing him a true competition, is what optimizes that potential, the potential for him to succeed this year. But I just don't think so, right? Because again, if he's your guy, he's already motivated. And in my opinion, with Anthony Richardson, within the context of this situation, increasing his reps is what is most important, because we know that that's one of his biggest issues, is not having experience, and a lot of the flaws that we see in Anthony Richardson come from not having as much experience in college and in the NFL, due to injury, due to benching, whatever it is, due to obviously his college career being a little bit skinnier than most players at this stage in their careers. Anthony Richardson hasn't played a lot. He hasn't taken a lot of reps, and whether it's in practice, whether it's in games, I think that he has to be the guy. So he better go out and win this QB battle right away in training camp. Otherwise, I think that he's going to be a step behind his potential. He's going to be a little bit more limited than he would have been if he was the only guy in the room in terms of his potential, and that worries me, because I fear, again, the bottom line is that this will be a wasted season, which I'm willing to accept in the long term. This will be a wasted season, but we won't be fully assured that the decision we make at the end of the wasted season is the right one. Because again, if Anthony Richardson fails and Daniel Jones fails, maybe in the back of our mind we'll be thinking, what would have happened if we went all in on Anthony Richardson? Would he have performed better? Would we be in a more optimistic mood going into 2026 than we are coming away from 2025 if we had made that decision instead? That's my fear. That's my worry. But again, I'm willing to be proven wrong. Maybe Daniel Jones is awesome. Maybe he's not awesome, but maybe this level of competition is what makes Anthony Richardson awesome, right? I have no idea. I'm willing to be proven wrong. It is March. We haven't seen the draft. We haven't seen the rest of free agency play out. We have no idea where Aaron Rodgers is going to play, if anywhere, right? It's very early. It's the day after this move happens. I'm willing to watch the offseason play out. I'm willing to watch training camp play out, and I'm willing to watch the preseason and eventually week one and be able to say then, as the season progresses, whether or not we made the right decision and what the right decision would be moving forward. But right now, I'm hesitant. I'm skeptical of this decision to bring in Daniel Jones, and I certainly am interested to see how it goes from here.